Welcome to the Supply Chainiacs. I'm your host, Glenn Kepke. Joined with me today is none other than Seve Carnera from FourKites. So welcome, Seve.
Thanks again, Glenn.
Thanks for joining us again. And just to remind folks, this is the fourth episode in a four-part series surrounding the industry report that FourKites published in regards to yard management technologies. And so our industry report looked at over 300 of the Fortune 500 companies at ranged multiple industries, including shippers, manufacturers, retailers, and 3PLs. And so Seve is joining us today to provide his insights on some of the key findings from that report. And so one of the metrics that we found really interesting during the results is around that 92% of respondents feel a YMS, an appointment management technology, does or could add value to their organization, but only 21% of respondents are currently using a yard management system. So we've talked a little bit about how the adoption has been a challenge within yard and warehouse operations, and that the warehouse managers or directors feel like there's maybe other priorities in the organizations. But I also think it speaks to how the industry doesn't necessarily understand the full ROI potential of where a YMS and an appointment management system could bring value to their operation. So Seve, given your years of expertise and experience implementing, deploying solutions within the YMS space, curious to get your thoughts on what are the key areas of ROI that customers would see by deploying these types of solutions.
Yeah, so there's a few that stick out right away, Glenn. First, number one is detention fees. Without a doubt, a lot of organizations have no idea how much they're spending on a daily basis on detention fees. And it's unfortunate because a lot of times the only time they find out is when they get the bill from the carrier stating that they've charged them a fee for detention. In addition to that, the system should be able to clearly identify those trailers and then pinpoint where those costs are being used or being implemented from the fact that they're being charged for those detention fees. Another area as well too, without a doubt, is the visibility of the equipment in the yard. And I mean that by stating that you can find actual trailers within the yard. So what I refer to as Easter egg hunting for yard drivers is eliminated. There's no need to be out there looking for a particular unit. It's not uncommon for me to have calls with customers and they tell me it sometimes takes a driver a couple hours to finish a move because they spent so much time looking for the equipment. In addition to that, you eliminate yard checks. So the manual yard checking is eliminated, and that's one of the biggest things I get a lot of happiness in sharing with customers and sharing with them. Hey, you'll never have to do a yard check past this point because the system, through the use of the RFID technology, will take care of that. And with those two things in mind, the labor costs are so much. There's so much savings there as well. Again, your yard drivers know exactly where the equipment is. They're not looking for it and then trying to find the correct equipment. In addition to that, the organization as a whole, when they create moves, they can also specify the exact size and type of trailer that they need. And through the application, they can figure that out much easily and much quicker. And that in and of itself also creates the ability to have those yard drivers also go out and pick the correct equipment. So there's a lot of different ways that you can have a ROI based on the adoption of a yard management system. And I've had customers that really aren't interested in understanding what's arriving at their gate at any particular time, but there's such a huge value in just being able to have the visibility of the yard, as well as streamlining those task processing and being able to see the inventory in the yard, that in and of itself is a huge cost savings for them.
That makes sense. Thank you for sharing all those. Obviously, some extremely impactful ones from a financial standpoint, but also from a velocity standpoint. Maybe one to add too is just employee safety, right? You talk a little bit about the Easter egg hunt and having to do trailer checks, but just obviously if you have an individual walking around where you have trucks and movements constantly, obviously employee safety is extremely critical for all these companies in the world. So appreciate those findings. The final metric I'd like to highlight from the industry report is one that was focused on the performance metrics for both yard management and for appointment management. And one thing that was interesting is that 27% of respondents don't maintain any kind of yard or appointment performance metrics. We saw healthy metrics management for appointments at roughly 65%, but in the yard, only about 25% of respondents actually maintain performance metrics, which is somewhat surprising given the focus on Lean Six Sigma and quality in a number of customer operations. Technology continues to play a bigger and bigger role in logistics to meet the needs of customer expectations. So, Seve, curious to get your thoughts on how can metrics focused on performance help organizations in this endeavor?
Yeah, sure. So there's a couple of things that we can talk about. So first and foremost, it's obviously important to try and improve your carrier selection. So what I mean by that is if you have carriers that are consistently showing up on time, keeping to their appointments, making sure that they're communicating with the organization, that's always an important factor. And then you can weed out those poor performers as compared to those that are actually performing at a high rate. The other thing too is that you can also compare that on a side-by-side basis for those organizations that have multiple yards, multiple organizations where they need to track that information. So if you compare that on a side-by-side basis, you can also have that ability to compare sites and then also have a broader spectrum of those carriers that you're using from multiple sites. So there's advantages by doing that, and then obviously also by just trying to improve those carriers that you're working with.
That's great. And performance management is at the core of any operation. And so I wanted to thank you, Seve, for joining us on this 4-part series. And second of all, thank you to all those that have listened in. And we appreciate your passion for disruptive technologies in the supply chain space. Hopefully you're able to learn new trends in the market, and hopefully the industry report can bring value for your organization. If you'd like to learn more, you can find the report at FourKites.com. And if you have an interest to reach out to Seve or I, you can find us available on LinkedIn as well. So everyone stay safe, and we will hopefully see you soon.